Our next talk is going to be given by Piyush Khaitan. He's an amateur philatelist and has been collecting, exhibiting, and speaking on various topics for about 10 years. His interests are Indian airmails, Zeppelin and catapult mail, World War II civilian airmail, and post-H II airmail. He's also a collector and archivist of Air India memorabilia and maintains two websites related to his hobbies, www.indianairmails.com and www.airindiacollector.com. His exhibit on Indian crash mails won a large for May and the Nelson Eustace Memorial Prize for the Best Aero Exhibit in Canberra 2020, earlier this year. He lives in Mumbai, India. Piyush, let's go forward with your exhibit, the 1932 Karachi-Madras flight of Tata Sons.
Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Really pleased to be here with all of you and talk about my favorite subject, which is Indian airmails. And this is the flight which actually signified the birth of Indian airmails and Indian civil aviation. It's widely believed that 15th October 1932 is when really Indian airmail started. So we all know about the 1911 flight and some of the other airmail flights after that. But this is where a really commercial service started in the true sense, which was operated by an Indian-owned company. So just in terms of a little background, one of the things is I'm going to refer to city names contemporaneously. So, you know, Mumbai is Bombay and Chennai is Madras. Karachi is still a part of India in 1932. So please keep that in mind as I go along. And with that, we will get started. So we'll just start with a little bit of a recap, what happened until 1932. So there was a short-lived airmail service between Karachi and Bombay, which operated between January to March 1920. This was by the RAF, and they operated a total of 7 flights in each direction. It was first fortnightly and then went on to a weekly service. But the airmail charges were very expensive and they ran into a huge loss and had to shut it down. The Imperial Airways was chartered with operating a service from Cairo to Karachi. Unfortunately, they could not, due to political difficulties, take the service all the way to Karachi. So they flew from Cairo to Basra. And this service started in January 1927. Finally, England was connected to India by air with the London-Karachi Imperial Airways service, which it was a weekly service, and the first flight landed in Karachi on 6th April 1929. Later that year itself, the Indian State Air Service was formed to extend the airmail from Karachi, which came via Imperial Airways, to take it via Jodhpur to Delhi. They were able to operate that service for 2 years before the airline collapsed, and the Delhi Flying Club took over the service in January 1932. By that time, you know, the Dutch and the French had large commercial and colonial interests in the East. So they had already started air services to the French to Indochina and the Dutch to Netherlands, East Indies. They had started these services in 1930, but were not allowed to drop mail or pick up mail from India until October 1932. By that time, the British had realized the need and the feasibility of extending the service all the way to Australia, and also realized that without the cooperation of the French in Indochina and the Dutch in Indonesia, they would find it very difficult to fly to Australia. And that's the reason why this concession was given. So now the Air Orient could pick up mail from Rangoon and take it eastward, and similarly KLM could do the same and take it to Indonesia. Tata Sons by 1932 was already a well-respected business house in the country. They started in the 1850s as traders, largely with interests in cotton and opium, and that's how most of the Bombay businessmen made their fortunes at that time. Went on by the end of the 19th century to start setting up manufacturing businesses. So they were, they had power plants, they had hotels, they had textile mills, steel plants, and they were very well respected by 1932 as a business house in India. So young J.R.D. Tata, who was 28 years old at that time, persuaded Mr. Saklatwala, who was the chairman of Tata Sons at that time, to allow him to start this air service. And in 1929, they applied to the government of India for permission, which was finally given to them in 1932. And they started this flight, which was to take mail which came in from London all the way to Karachi, and to extend the air service from Karachi to Madras. So this flight was to go from Karachi to Madras via Ahmedabad, Bombay and Bellary in the southward direction, and similarly to go back from Madras to Karachi in time for the Imperial Airways service from Karachi to London. The important thing is there was no government subsidy to this flight, and they had to make sure that whether they earned money or lost money, it had to be a viable business. And it was a 1,300-mile long route. But at that time, except for Karachi, there were no radio beacons, there were no night landing facilities, everything literally navigating by compass and by visual aids. So they were following railway tracks, they were following the coastline, they were following other geographical features and trying to find their way out. The entire line consisted of two aircraft, two de Havilland Moths, and they had three pilots, one of which was Mr. Tata himself, and they had two mechanics. The headquarters of the airline was a tin shed at Juhu Island near Bombay, which was a mud flat and was used as the airport. And 4 months in a year it was built under the sea because of the high tide during the monsoons. So these are the circumstances under which the airline started. Now, the first flight which we are talking about today left Karachi on 15th October, stopped at Ahmedabad, Bombay, and flew up to Bellary, where it halted overnight. On the 16th October, it flew from Bellary to Madras. And on 17th was the return flight from Madras to Bellary, again overnight halt up there. And on the 18th morning, left Bellary via Bombay, Ahmedabad, reached Karachi at night. There's a table below which shows the amount of mail that was carried. Now, information, the first time I have seen a complete list of information on the mail carried was in an article in the India Post by Terry Hare Walker, which was just published earlier this year. Before that, I have been struggling to piece this information together. The primary source of information is these kind of slips that I was able to find in the collection of Lady Ezra. So she was an airmail collector living in Calcutta at that time, and she maintained immaculate records of all the covers in her collection. And here she would write actually, for example, mail carried from Bombay to Bellary 3 pounds and 2 ounces. So several of these slips I was able to get hold of. Some things came out of newspaper cuttings where they write here certain stages how much mail was carried. But the first time I have seen a comprehensive list was in the India Post earlier this year. So you can see from here that certain stages there was a reasonable amount of mail carried, but certain stages just 2 pounds or 3 pounds of mail. all told about 150 pounds southwards and 180 pounds northward. This is another very interesting mystery about this flight. But everywhere you read that VT-ADN was the aircraft that was used by Mr. Tata when he flew the mail from Karachi into Bombay. So I guess it goes to this particular photograph, which was published in the Madras newspapers when the plane landed on 16th October in Madras. And it has a photo of Neville Vincent. So Tata flew the aircraft from Karachi via Ahmedabad into Bombay. Vincent took over the mail in Bombay and flew via Bellary to Madras. And on the way back again from Madras via Bellary to Bombay, where the third pilot, Homi Barucha, took over and took the mail via Ahmedabad to Karachi. So because of this VT-ADN photograph in Madras, it's popularly believed that this is the plane which Tata flew. In fact, if you see two postage stamps issued by the government, by the Indian Post in 1979, clearly shows VT-ADN, and even in 1982 has a hint of VT-ADN up there as well. So what I have for you here is J.R.D. Tata's personal logbook. And in his logbook itself, if you see the last two rows, he records 1510, 15th October, VT-ACZ from Karachi to Ahmedabad and Ahmedabad to Bombay. Flying time 4 hours 15 minutes, 2 hours 25 minutes. First airmail flight, Tata Karachi Madras, service inauguration. So without any doubt, the aircraft that Tata flew was VT-ACZ. Now, if you see the entry on 12th October, you'll see here that VT-ADN is the plane that Tata flew from Bombay to Karachi via Junagadh. So it seems that both the planes were in Karachi. Tata chose to fly ACZ with the mail into Bombay, and perhaps Vincent would have brought the other plane to Bombay to take the mail on from there to Madras. I also have here a magazine advertisement of Air India 30 years later. So this was a 1962 magazine advertisement, but this clearly shows VT-ACZ as the aircraft used. But even if I go back to the, John Stroud, or if I see what Jeffrey Brown has written, or some of the more recent articles, everywhere it's referred to as VT-ADN, which I believe is not correct. In order to publicize and promote this service, a lot of things were done. What we see here is the publicity leaflet, which was distributed in London, which talks about the postage rate. So it was, higher than the Karachi rate. So it was 8 pence for the first half ounce and 7 pence for every subsequent half ounce. It talks about saving between 1 3/4 of a day to 8 days on mail to India by using the service. These very decorative airmail etiquettes were made and again distributed to people to put on the covers to send them there. There were also souvenir covers made. So there's an interesting story behind the design of these covers. So what you see on the top is what I call the type 1A, the dark ultramarine cover. So if you see the background, the semicircle here behind the map, it's in dark ultramarine color. And this was Stephen Smith is the person who designed and printed these covers. So he describes these as experimental printing and says that 100 of these were printed. Then they were printed in a lighter blue, and all told about 2,000 of these covers were printed. Now, when about 1,250 of these were sold, they had to stop sale of these covers. And the reason for that was that there was an uproar by that time as to these covers not being considered patriotic in India. So you see, by 1932, the freedom movement had already become very strong, and there was a pretty strong anti-British sentiment in India already. and then to have the map of India with the Union Jack flying on top of it and the red and blue colors in the cover, Tata came under a lot of pressure and said, you are an Indian company, how can you promote something like this? So after 1,250 covers were sold, the sale was stopped, and it was agreed that they could still be sold overseas, but not in India. So then what Smith did was he removed the Union Jack and replaced the red with the yellow and printed what are called now the Type 2 covers. Now the Type 2 covers, about 750 of these were sold as well. Here is a rough proof for that, signed on 13th of July. And this is the specimen cover where Stephen Smith has himself written 2000 printed on 15 July. Sales stopped in India 26 July after 11 days. This is the copy of the guard book copy of the same cover in Tata's records. And you see here the signature of J.R.D. Tata, recording that this is the official cover. And then the yellow cover that was printed later, the specimen of that. Of course, Stephen Smith was accused by some people of profiting from this change, because now collectors would have to go in for both the designs. So that's something we'll never know the answer to. The postal rates at that time, the letter rate, inland letter rate was 1 anna 3 paisa. There was a 2 anna airmail fee. So you see this cover here with 3 anna 3 paisa franking. Registration fee was 3 anna, so some people sent registered letters. So that was 6 anna 3 paisa. And then the printed matter rate was 9 paisa. So you will see some covers with 2 anna 9 paisa postage as well. 9 pi postage. A special cachet was made, which was applied on all mail carried on that flight in both directions, southward and northward, regardless of which airport it was picked up. So this says Karachi-Madras, 15th October 32, first airmail, and has an image of the aircraft. So southward mail, you will see the cachet with the 15th October date for mail that was picked up in Karachi, Ahmedabad and Bombay. And mail that was posted in Bellary would have the cachet dated 16th October. Northward, it would be dated 17th October for mail posted in Madras, and 18th October for mail posted in Bombay, Bellary, Ahmedabad. And the cachet was meant to be put here in the front of the cover. Now, you will wonder how difficult is that? So let's see what happened. In Bellary, they decided to use the cachet on southward mail as an obliterator. So any cover you see with the cachet used as a canceller, it will straight away tell you that this was posted in Bellary for southward mail, which means mail from Bellary to Madras. Mail leaving Madras had the cachet applied on the reverse. So you'll see Madras covers going northward. So whether to Bellary, Bombay, Ahmedabad, Karachi, or anywhere forward, you will see the cachet applied on the back of the cover. Incidentally, Madras mail has a special postulation cancellation mark, which is remarkably beautiful. In fact, I would say it's one of the most beautiful cancellation marks used in India ever. And you can see it here on the covers as well. So I wonder why it was not applied in the other cities, but it's only applied in Madras and only dated 17th October. Coming back to the non-standard use of the commemorative cachet, on the northward journey, Bellary said, just put it wherever you like. So you see examples with it on the front, you see examples of it at the back, and you see examples of it both in the front and the back. So there was just no, I think, standardization with respect to where they wanted to apply the cachet. Ahmedabad has applied this cachet even as an arrival mark. So here we have a cover from London to Ahmedabad. So at Karachi, it got the 15th October cachet on the front. But at Ahmedabad on arrival, it received one more cachet at the back. Similarly, a northward cover from Madras to Ahmedabad has the 17th October Madras cachet, and 18th October Ahmedabad arrival cachet. So it's used in many, many different ways. The Shuska was used only in Bombay and it was not applied anywhere else. So you will not see mail at Karachi, Ahmedabad, Bellary or Madras with a Shuska. And in Bombay, it was applied in black. And here there was no airmail etiquette, so they just decided to cancel the cachet itself. And all southward mail, all northward mail coming from the south, it was applied in red. So here is one uh, from Madras, and it is applied in Bombay in red. Here we have some interesting covers which were signed by the pilot. Now, these are supposed to be quite rare. Jeffrey Brown writes that 3 covers are known to have been signed by Tata and 3 by Vincent. So I think there are many more because I have myself seen 2 more covers signed by Tata and 5 or 6 more covers signed by Vincent, but nevertheless. So the Tata cover here, you have the JRD Tata signature on the Karachi Bombay cover and the Ahmedabad Bombay cover. And here you have the Vincent cover signed here and here. So these are the pilot signed covers. This is something rather interesting. This is the only known example of the official souvenir cover flying from UK to India. And these are actually the type 1 and the type 2 covers which have been crafted together by Smith, and they're pasted on a piece of cardboard and then registered at Notting Hill and franked 18 pence, 1 shilling 6 pence, and mailed to Calcutta with instructions to fly it via Bombay. So this cover is, I've just never seen anything like it, and it makes it very, very interesting. The Aeroflight Club of Calcutta printed special covers as well, and they printed 2 designs of covers. So one cover, this design on the left, is for overseas usage. And what they've done here is they've put a ship and they've written 1630 and 6 months. And then they've put this aeroplane and put 1930 and 6 days. So they're just trying to show that mail from India to Britain would take 6 months. And now because of the air revolution could do it in 6 days. The one for domestic use has a globe and they have an aeroplane to really show how the whole world could be connected by airmail. Both covers have the same design on the reverse, which is a map of India and showing the route from Karachi to Madras via Ahmedabad, Bombay, and Bellary. Athens applied very interesting cachets on mail that was carried on this flight. So here we have incoming mail from Athens. So departure Athens 11th October, which arrived in Karachi on 14th October and took the 15th October flight. So you have it in red and in violet, and it says first Athens, Bombay Madras, Imperial Airways flight, and you have it in here, and the reverse direction, the flights which then flew from India and carried mail to England, which was deplaned in Athens, has very interesting arrival marks, which are again in magenta and in black. So we have not seen any other examples of these special cachets applied at other airports outside of India, except for Athens. These are mail carried on the first flight, but to some interesting destinations. The first one is from Madras to Mauritius. So Madras to Karachi on Tata, and then Karachi to Cairo on the Karachi-Croydon flight, from where it connected on the Imperial Airways Africa service up to Nairobi, and then by surface to Dar es Salaam, and then onward by sea to Mauritius. Here we have a cover to St. Helena, again in the South Atlantic. So again, just very interesting destinations for mail to have gone. Tata Sons covers, we have here a cover which is addressed to Tata Sons Bombay, Bombay House Fort. And this is the Tata Sons Karachi-Madras Air Service cache. So there are two actually. One is Karachi-Madras, and then you have the same cache with Madras-Karachi used in the reverse direction. Again, these are not very common, quite scarce to come across. And here is a letter which went from Madras all the way to Cape Town. It was at that time the longest unbroken air journey of 9,700 miles. So again, from Madras to Karachi, the flight, Karachi to Cairo on the Karachi-London service, and then on the Africa service, which was extended from East Africa to South Africa earlier in 1932, all the way to Cape Town. So with this, I will come to the end of my presentation. So in the first year of operation, they flew 160,000 miles with an amazing, absolutely amazing record of regularity. During the monsoons, I had mentioned that the Bombay Juhu airport would come under water for 4 months. So 4 months every year from June to October, they would shift operations to Pune, which is about 100 miles away from Bombay, and the Bombay mail would be carried by rail. 2 years after that, in 1935, then the Nizam of Hyderabad gave Tata a subsidy of 20,000 per year, and Bellary replaced Hyderabad as the halt. The route was then extended to Trichy and Colombo when the phase 2 of the Empire Airmail scheme started in 1938. Some of the other significant expansions of Tata Air Service were the Travancore service via Goa and Cannanore in 1935, the Delhi service in 1937 from Bombay, which went via Indore, Bhopal and Gwalior, and the Calcutta service which went via Nagpur in 1946. The company, which started as the aviation division of Tata Sons in 1932, got incorporated as Tata Airlines. In 1946, it changed its name to Air India Limited and was nationalized in 1953, and with 8 other airlines became part of Indian Airlines Corporation. In 1962, Mr. Tata reenacted, on the 30th anniversary of the flight, he reenacted the Karachi-Ahmedabad-Bombay route. And here we see examples of some mail carried by him from Karachi to Bombay. Here we see a cover which he carried on the original 1932 flight, but autographed by him on 15th October 1982, which is the 50th anniversary. At that time, he flew the same Karachi, Ahmedabad, Bombay again, but this time they could not find the original aircraft. So I think the Delhi Air Club was able to find Gypsy Moth, which was a pretty similar aircraft for him to recreate the service. He did that. And here we see a picture of Mr. Tata after the 50th anniversary of the flight, which he reenacted. And he was 78 years of age when he did that solo from Karachi to Bombay. So with this, I will end my short talk and throw it open to any questions. I would like to mention that I have a website, indianairmails.com, where everything that you have seen in today's presentation is available with some more detailed notes. Thank you.
So we have a couple of questions, Piyush. The first question is, did any of these flights carry passengers?
Yes, the aircraft was equipped to carry up to 2 passengers, but they did generally carry 1.
All right. Another question is it right that they're coming in fast, that the Bombay Juska crosses were used in black only on mail on this flight? It's normally in magenta.
The Bombay Juska in black was applied on the southward mail, so mail which flew in from Karachi and Ahmedabad, and the magenta Juska was applied on the northward mail. Now, Bombay itself, Juska marks I have seen on other dates in black and in red.
Okay. Rajan has a question: is there documented evidence of the independence movement putting a stop to the Stephen Smith caches with the Union Jack?
Yes, so this has been written about by several people. So if you see the what Jeffrey Brown has written, he has written the same thing, and there are several other references as well to this.
Great. Well, here's my applause, as you can see in my picture. Very, very good talk.